What is up, you guys? Welcome back to another video. In this episode, we're talking about my 2016 BMW S1000RR, the good, the bad, and the ugly modifications. So I've had this bike since 2017. I bought it brand new off the showroom floor in Saskatchewan. So in Saskatchewan, it is really hard to sell a sports bike. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 years just to sell a sports bike. Unlike British Columbia, when you have a sports bike, it sells immediately. But I bought this off the showroom floor in 2017, and this bike is a 2016. So it had 0 kilometers when I bought it. It was absolutely brand new. It still had the full warranty, everything. So we're gonna start it off big with my favorite at times modification and my not so favorite modification at times. Obviously, we're talking about the exhaust. So behind me is an Austin Racing full system, full titanium, all the way to the headers. So what made me buy this exhaust behind me here was I watched a ton of YouTube videos, and kind of one of the things that sold me back then is I would listen to R1s with the crossplane engine with the Austin Racing exhaust, and it sounded absolutely insane. And for some reason, I didn't know that an R1 had a crossplane engine back then, and I thought my bike would sound the same as that, but it obviously didn't. Nonetheless, I'm still really happy with my purchase. Austin Racing is so freaking loud. I think it's one of the most loud exhausts you can buy on the market. SC Project probably has it beat by a little bit, but Austin Racing just kind of has a little bit more of a growl, a little bit more of a deeper tone, which I absolutely love. Now, living in Vancouver, the Vancouver PD don't like loud exhaust. So unfortunately, I've had to install the DB killer in here, which quiets it down quite a bit, like a significant amount. So the reason you get an Austin Racing is not to be quiet. You want to be loud, you want to be heard, you want to have the pops, you want to have the bangs, everything. Since I put the DB killer in, I haven't had any issues, and I tend to just ride in a higher gear to keep the noise down. So I love my Austin Racing. I would buy another one. They are so freaking expensive, like holy smokes. I think they're the most expensive exhaust on the market. Aside from Termagoni or something from Ducati, I think you're spending upwards of $10,000. That being said, one of the downsides with having an Austin Racing exhaust is going on long trips. If you plan on going on long road trips, anything like that, listening to that exhaust for hours on end definitely gives you a headache, guys. Another negative with my Austin Racing exhaust is how short it is. Where it's sitting right now is super close to the brake line, which kind of sucks. It just discolors the whole thing. It makes it all black, all carbon. It hasn't melted anything or caused me any issues whatsoever. It's more just a cosmetic issue. So one of the nice things with having a titanium exhaust is it just gets that nice blue color. It looks so freaking cool. That's the reason why I went with titanium over the Inconel. So having a full system exhaust, one of the first things that you need to do before you even ride the bike with an aftermarket exhaust is tune the thing, because your bike runs lean from the factory and you need to tune it to get a little bit more fuel in there so your bike isn't running lean after putting a full system exhaust. So what I did, living in Saskatchewan, there was nobody doing dynos, there's nobody doing tuning. The only options I had was to mail my ECU away or buy a third party. So I had the option of buying a Power Commander, a Bazaz, and I think there was a Rapid bike were the 3 options that I really looked into. And the salesman here in Vancouver actually recommended getting the Bazaz tuner. And he also recommended getting the auto tuner because I didn't have anybody to tune my bike back then. So I got the auto tuner. Now, when I got the auto tuner, I had no idea how to use it. I just hooked it up to my bike and drove it around and then took the tune that the bike recommended I put on my bike. And I applied that tune and my bike ran like absolute crap. So what I ended up doing was just finding a map online and tuning my bike that way. And I rode around like that for years and the bike felt great. It felt fine. A few years later, Harley Davidson got a dyno in my city and I took my bike there and I was expecting 180 wheel horsepower, something like that. And I put it on the dyno and it only hit 167. I wasn't happy with those numbers whatsoever. Shortly after, I moved to Vancouver and I found somebody that could tune my bike with the Bazaz tuner and I took it to him. It was hitting 167-ish kind of thing. And he was able to get it up to 183 horsepower to the wheels, which woke the bike up completely. The bike ran so much better. Tune your bikes, guys. It will change your life. That being said, I need to tune my M1000 single R because that thing sucks at certain RPMs. Staying at the back of the bike here, we might as well talk about the tires that I run here. They are my all-time favorite tires that I've ever had on any bike. These Pirelli Diablo Rossa Corsa 4. They're so freaking good. They're so freaking sticky. Down the center, it's got a nice compound on on there stays nice and hard where you don't really need as much grip. And then on the sides, it's a super Corsa tire. So you've got absolutely crazy sticky tires, which is awesome for the street. And it's also awesome for the track. These tires behind me here, I typically get around 8,000 kilometers to a set of back tires. And I usually just do the front and the back at the same time just for peace of mind. So my S1000RR behind me here has almost 50,000 kilometers. So I've got an aftermarket chain on there, and I decided to go with the 520 chain instead of the 525 just because it's a little bit lighter. It was about the same price as getting the 525. So I upgraded the sprockets and I upgraded the chain to that 520 system. I can't remember what brand it is or what style it is, but I'll put it right here so that you guys know exactly what chain I got. Next up on the list is my swing arm spools. Now they're by R&G, and I've got a little bone to pick with R&G. I'm not a huge fan of them, but they do the job. They work great on the stand. They do what they're intended to do. So the reason why I'm not a huge fan of R&G is because my bike actually got hit in a parking lot and fell over, and it landed on the frame slider. Now the frame slider did its job. It saved the bike, it saved the fairings, but it bent a little bit, which I ended up leaving for a while, and eventually the frame slider actually snapped and the bolt broke off inside, which sucked. What I did is I took it to the shop. They were able to get the bolt out, fix it, everything. And I reached out to R&G because I just wanted a new bolt, and I thought that would be fine. They reached out back to me and they said, yeah, absolutely. We'll send you one for free of charge. I was willing to pay for it. They said, no problem, free of charge. We'll send you a bolt. So I waited a week. I waited 2 weeks, 3 weeks, nothing. I didn't see the bolt, didn't show up, anything. So I reached out again to them and they said, it's on the way. Don't worry, it's coming. A month went by, 2 months went by, no bolt. I was riding around on my BMW here with no frame sliders, scared to park it anywhere because I didn't have the frame sliders, scared to ride it because I didn't have the frame sliders, etc. So I reached out to them a third time. I was like, hey guys, like, what's going on here? Where's this bolt? They ghosted me. They quit talking to me. I don't know what I did. I don't know what the problem was. I was willing to pay for the bolt. So what I ended up doing was just saying, screw you, R&G. I'm going to switch to Saddle Racing, and I've got frame sliders with them and they look amazing. In my opinion, they look even better than the R&G frame sliders that I had on here, and I haven't had an issue since. So while we're talking about protection components of my motorcycle, I might as well talk about the Woodcraft case sliders that I have on this bike. Now they work as intended. The install was good. Everything was good about them. But one of the cons that I have with it is on the exhaust side where my bike sees a ton of sun is the little slider part there. It discolored, it's kind of turning pink. It does not look like it did when I got it brand new. It looks faded. It just did not hold up in the sun. But thankfully, I've never dropped my bike and I've never needed the case sliders, but they are there. I highly recommend Woodcraft. They're super nice to deal with. They were able to send me extra stretch bolts, no issues there. So lastly, for the protection components of my bike is the front axle sliders, and they're by Light Tech. They look amazing, but they are a pain in the buns to install. Typically, front axle sliders have a piece of metal that attaches them on either side of the wheel, but these ones do not. They are a friction fit in there, and every time I change my front tire, it is a pain to put them back. They barely go back on there, and I don't trust them. If I were to go down in a crash, I think they're just gonna rip off. Next, we're gonna talk about the cosmetic things that I did to my bike, and one of the first things that you need to do when you buy a brand new bike is get rid of that stock fender, because bikes these days just come with a massive fender on them. They look absolutely horrendous, but that is one of the first things that you got to do. So what I've got behind me is the Yoshimura Fender Eliminator, and it did the job. It was able to take the stock signal lights, everything, all that kind of stuff. But what happened within the first year is the license plate light burnt out, and I just have not fixed it since then. So on stock bikes, typically they come with those big bunny ear mirrors, and I do not like the look of that. So what I did is got the CRG bar end mirrors and put those on my motorcycle, and I really like them. In my opinion, you can actually see a lot more behind you. With those bunny ear mirrors, you kind of got to tuck in a little bit just to see behind you. And with the bar end mirrors, you just like look down and you can see everything behind you. What I've got here is the zero gravity double bubble windshield, and I really like it. I think it looks so freaking cool. Practicality for track use, anything like that when you're kind of, you know, tucked in there. Definitely not the best track option by far, but for looks wise and for wind wise, when you're on the highway, that extra little bit that it comes up actually makes a huge difference when you're on the highway at high speeds. So while we're in that area, we might as well talk about the quad lock that I've got on this bike here. And by far, that is the best system on the market for a phone holder. There is nothing else out there that compares to it, in my opinion. The one that I've got here is the wireless charger. So when you're out on long rides or you worked all day and your phone's almost dead and you want to go for a ride, you throw your phone on there, charges it up, good to go. I used to run the RAM mount system, and after my good friend Evan lost his phone on the highway with the RAM mount system, I knew I had to switch to something better to hold your phone. So next on my list is my brake and my clutch lever. Now on my clutch side, I've got a Pazzo lever, and on my right side, I've got the Brembo system. They used to both be Pazzo. I recently upgraded my front brake to the 19RCS Brembo brakes, which I highly recommend. They make a huge difference when you go into the corners on the front brake. There's just so much less effort you have to put into the front brake to really start getting that grab. If you guys are looking to upgrade your brakes significantly, definitely get the 19RCS Brembo brakes because they will change your life. Well, that's going to do it for my 2016 BMW S1000RR. Let's jump on the motorcycle here, go for a little ride, and we'll talk about some of the future mods that I want to make happen on this bike.
Oh yeah, and you can hear that Austin racing exhaust firing away there, DB killer and all. This thing just vibrates like crazy. Wow. Let's give it a little rev for you guys here. Now that we're leaving, we're not worried about getting kicked out of this parking lot. Oh yeah. Just love the grumble of that. Also, how do you guys like my new setup here? I've got the small rig cage for my GoPro, everything's there, receiver, everything. How does the audio sound now? I am absolutely in love with my audio on my motorcycle now. It is a beautiful day. It's not too hot, not too cold, and the sun is out. Yeah. So future mods for this motorcycle right here are probably not going to be anytime in the future. Right now, I've kind of got all the modifications that I really wanted way back when I bought this motorcycle. So it's not a huge priority to me to really modify this bike a whole lot more. But if I really do start getting into the YouTube videos and all that kind of stuff, I want to buy all the special carbon fiber pieces that you can get for this bike. There's such a huge selection of carbon fiber for this bike because it's been out for so long. There were so many years that this bike was made. It was made from 2015 all the way up until 2019, I believe. There's tons of options out there for aftermarket parts. The problem with my BMW M1000 single R is because it's an M and it's brand new, there's not a whole lot of options out there, especially when it comes to frame sliders, protection components, all those kinds of things. You really got to get the premium aftermarket parts on that bike if you want to get anything, because a lot of these smaller companies are just not making parts for it yet. I'd like to switch up the fairings, you know, kind of play around with that. I've kept the stock fairings in very good shape. There's very minimal scratches. There's micro scratches here and there, but nothing crazy. Another mod that I want to do on this motorcycle that I've been wanting to do for a really long time is switch out these stock ugly rear sets. I think they're absolutely horrendous, and I would love to get a really nice Gillies tool or something like that of rear sets, or Rizoma or something cool like that, something that would just totally transform this bike. So if I had all the money in the world, I would do all the carbon fiber pieces that you could possibly do on this bike here. I would do the wheels as well. I think carbon wheels look so freaking cool. They make the bike so much lighter, and apparently you can actually feel the difference. Another thing that I'd love to do on this motorcycle here is change out the headlights on this thing. I'd love to get those halo headlights that I see a lot of other guys do on this bike. Right now I've got those gross yellow headlights. For the time being, I'm probably going to switch out the bulbs and just put those nice white ones in here, or switch to LEDs, but I would love to get those halo ones that have like kind of a nice outline around the whole thing. I think those look so freaking cool. Let's just let these people get a little bit ahead here and see if we can't pop, you know, that front tire off the ground. You know, I know how you guys love wheelies. Every time I do some type of a wheelie video, it seems to get a ton of views because so many people just think wheelies are like the absolute coolest thing. So for the purpose of science and the purpose of getting more views, let's just pop it down and do a wheelie. All right, let's just wait till we get around this little bend here and we'll pop up that front tire for science, for views. All right, we are at our cruising altitude of the speed limit right now to do a wheelie. Let's go. Oh, baby. All right. Well, there you guys go. That was a little power wheelie not at balance point, nothing crazy, but, you know, we had to do it, right? Alright, I think that's going to do it for this one, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, drop me a like, drop me a comment, subscribe if you want to see more content. Let me know what bike you guys like more. Do you like my M1000 single R, or do you like my S1000RR? Let me know down in the comments. If there's any mods that you think I should do to this motorcycle, let me know down in the comments what I should do to this bike. What am I missing? For me, I think I've got all the necessities taken care of on this bike, but let me know. What do you guys think? Do you like my mods? Do you hate them? What do you like? What do you don't? Let me know. Anyways, that's gonna do it for this one. Make sure this time you tell your uncle, your aunt, your grandpa, and your you guessed it, your grandpa, that I'm out here showing off my cool AF mods on my BMW S1000RR. I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye. Oh, camera's down here now. Oh, I don't know if I'm covering it. There we go. I think I got it. Oh, one more thing before I go. Them Canucks, eh? I said that in the last video too. They just absolutely crushed the Oilers last night. I don't know if they crushed them. They won by 1 point in the last 30 seconds. But yeah, them Canucks. Go Canucks, go. They're going all the way. All right, that's it. Goodbye.